Our next speaker is the youngest speaker for the day. We have a range of ages, 23 to 65. That's the range of the ages of the speaker, and I'm not even in that range, and because I'm just 20. But when he was 19, God saved him from a fatal freak accident. And God saved many of us. You know, I read a book which says, when we go to heaven, we'll realize how many times God actually protected us, especially if you're from Hyderabad, in the old city. But God saved him from this fatal freak accident, and his life was changed. And he works among the dying, the destitute, and the homeless. And the NGO that he has is called Second Chance. He's 23. He's a talented musician. He can play almost any instrument, you name it, he can play it. He has a band, and his name is Jasper Paul. Give him a big hand as he comes onto the stage.
Before I start, I want to take this opportunity to thank my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ for giving me this wonderful platform to share with you all my life story. And I want to take this time to also thank Brother Joshua for inviting me to share what God has done in my life and how He's using the second chance. A couple of years ago, life was not the same. I was 19 and I was miserable. If you can see the picture, you would see my hair colored. And if you see the second picture, you would see that this 19-year-old was defying the laws of gravity. You know why? Because of his pants. All right? And that was something called the generation gap, something between the hip and the thigh. And my pants were so low, and I was defying all the laws of gravity. It just wouldn't fall off. And I was a fun-loving guy. I loved cars. I loved driving. I still love driving. Driving was an amazing passion. You know what I got gifted on my 18th birthday? It was a driving license slot. That was my gift. And I just used to love cars. I used to love driving. I used to think that, I'm Michael Schumacher. No one can ever beat me in a race. Well, no one has ever beat me till date, so challenges are still on. But I was living life the way I wanted to live. I remember when I was young, there was a prophet who prophesied over my life, said that you will be a risk taker for God. And I didn't understand. I was very small. I didn't understand what taking risks for God meant. But all I knew was, at that age, I was taking risks in a very ungodly way. I was driving this car around very rashly. I was going out with my friends, bunking college, just what a typical 19-year-old would do. And I was miserable. I was endangering the lives of others. I was endangering the life of myself. There were many times when the cops stopped me. They took me to the police station, impounded my car. There were many times when I got slapped on the road for driving so rash. And then I had plans to be a musician because I play music. I had plans to go abroad, do something with music. I want to do something with my driving. I had different plans. My parents' plans was just like your parents' plans. They put me in engineering, and I studied engineering for 4 years, successfully completed it. And then, one day, when I was driving my car back home, and I used to drive this car very rash, very fast, minimum 80 to 100 on narrow roads. So people knew when Jasper Paul was coming, they knew that he was coming. I was coming back home one day, and there's a small road, service road to the highway, and I just changed the clutch plates on my car, and I wanted to test the limits of my car. And so I'm driving down this road, all the windows are down, I can feel that air rushing in, that feeling that you're faster than life. I can feel it. And I'm looking at my speedometer and driving, I'm at a speed of 100, and suddenly I look up, there's a huge, huge tree in middle of the road. What do you do next? What do I do next? It was a split-second decision. I didn't know what to do. All I knew that I was wearing my seatbelt, my hands were on the wheel, I pressed the brake. I pressed the brake really hard, It was rainy season, so probably there was some mud or some slush or something on the road. I don't know what it was. But the car went out of control. I lost control of the car. The steering went to the left. And the next thing I know, I'm in a car somersaulting 3 times. The car somersaulted 3 times, fell almost 50 feet away from the road. And no one even knew that an accident had taken place, because the car had fallen almost 50 feet away from where it happened. And as that car was flipping, there was just one question in my mind. If I die right now, and I knew I was going to die, where am I going to go? Because I had not done anything good in life. I had not loved. I had not listened to my parents. I had not read my Bible. I had not prayed. I had not done anything. The car flipped, and by the grace of God, it fell straight. And there was this dust all over me. And I was still conscious. I was still in a state of shock. And I stepped out of the car, and I saw the car. This was the car. Completely smashed, completely mangled, beyond use. But when I looked at my body, I just saw my body. I didn't find even a single scratch on my body. Now you tell me, you look at the car and tell me which guy can survive that accident. That day, my friends, that experience, that close quarter with death is the reason why I'm standing here on the stage today. And life was never the same after that. And then the story continues. I was on a lookout for my purpose in life. What did God want me to do? Why did God save me from this accident? Why would God choose me to live when I was sure shot dead in that accident? These questions were running in my head. And then one day I was passing by Hyderabad Station Road, very busy road. Happened to see this very old woman on the street. And she was just lying there in a very pathetic condition. And let's watch this video to see what happened next.
Record her. Show me. This is the case of 5 days of homelessness, and all the bystanders here just saw and went. Everyone just saw and went. But I decided to come and take this lady to hospital. Go ahead, come. Come closer. These people, they only need a little love, that's all. And she was very happy to see you.
So this was the woman who was on the road, and her hand was very badly injured because she met with an accident and it got infected, and there were maggots eating the, injury. There were like huge worms eating the injury. Long story short, I picked her up, put her in Gandhi Hospital. I pulled out all the maggots myself because the doctors were not willing to take the case unless the maggots were removed. I pulled out all the maggots by myself, admitted her in a hospital, then admitted her in an old age home later on. The media picked up this story because it was a pretty sensational thing. A 19-year-old guy rescued a 90-year-old woman. And this news had come in almost every newspaper. It had come in Sakshi, it had come in Deccan Chronicle, it had come in the radio, it had come in various different forums. And to my surprise, and to everyone's surprise, their family was actually searching for this old woman from far off. And when they saw the news in the Sakshi paper, they got reunited back to her. That was the start of my journey. And I knew that this was God's purpose for my life. But the story didn't end there. I've had multiple instances, multiple close quarters with death. In the month of December 2014, I was diagnosed with jaundice. And if you can see my eyes, they're completely yellow. It came to a point where the doctors told my parents that he may not survive. My bilirubin count was almost at 18.5. It was very high, close to liver damage. But during this phase of my life, God taught me how it is to have a relationship with Him, how it is to be in love with Jesus, how it is to experience His love, how it is to pray, how it is to read the Bible. So for 6 months of my life, I was learning, I was training, I was being in relationship with God. And now that the purpose of my life had been established, that I had to work with the destitute and work with a homeless person, all I could see around me was injustice. I was working with several other old age homes, and all I could see in those homes is that people were just doing it either for the money or for the fame or for some personal gain. I couldn't see the love of Christ. And we rescue people, people were dying. People were dying without knowing Jesus, and this broke my heart. This broke my heart so much because there was no sense of morality. There was no sense of sincerity. There was no sense of perfection in the work. There was no integrity at all. This led me to a thought of starting my own organization. And in the month of March 2017, I took a bold decision to start the Second Chance. And this organization, I started with no money in my pocket. I started it as a step of faith. And I believe one thing, whenever I say this, if God gives you the vision, He will give you the provision. He will give you the provision. And I don't know from where my sources came, from where I was able to register a trust, from where I was able to get a home to accommodate these kind of people, but that has been the journey. It was birthed out of faith, and it still runs on faith. So I took a decision to serve the needy with integrity, to serve the needy with all that I have, to serve the needy with love, showing them the love of Christ, giving them quality care, giving them quality food, giving them medical help. And we took this as a strong decision and started the Second Chance. People say, how do you do this? How did all of this come together? My answer is, I don't know. I don't know. All I know that when I wanted to start something, I was on my knees. I was on my knees and I was praying. I said, God, I want you to reveal your purpose in my life. I want to do this for you, but I want to know your will. And you know what? God surprised me. God surprised me. He said, I will not reveal my will to you. Because God's will for you is not something, it's not just mere information. God's will for you is not just information. God's will for you is a transformed mind. And He spoke to me from Romans 12:2, and He said, you use your mind, you use your skills, you use your abilities, and I will do the rest. God never looks at your ability. He looks at your availability. The motto of Second Chance is James chapter 1 and verse 27 that commands each and every one of us to look after orphans and widows in distress. That is the true religion which God says. So just want to show you a few pictures of our home. We currently house about 90 people who are all rescued from the streets. This is our first home. This is our base camp. Home for the dying in Sainik Puri. So we have patients who are serious, who are placed in this home. And this is our second home, which is located in Gatkesar. It's more of a rehab home where people have some kind of activity to do. So once they recover from our base camp, they get shifted to this home. And we have another home in Kisara, which is also a rehabilitation home. A lot of miracles and healing take place at the Second Chance home. And one such story I want to share with you guys and show you a video as well is the story of Manjunath. Manjunath was a person who had given up on life, wanted to commit suicide because the love of his life left him. So he tried, lying on a railway track, and the train went over his leg, he lost his leg. But he didn't die, he survived. Next, he tried cutting himself. You can see a lot of cut marks on his hand with a blade. But he survived that as well. Last, he got into alcoholism. He grabbed the bottle, he grabbed cigarettes, and he just drank his life away. He used to tell me, if he starts drinking at morning 6 o'clock, it ends at night 2 o'clock. That's how much he used to drink. Let's watch this video to find out what happened next.
ఇవ్వకండి వాటర్ ఇవ్వకండి.
All glory to God. It was nothing about us. It was all about God's grace and His mercy in the life of Manjunath. I'll say this, when I was a teenager, I was breaking people's hearts. But now God is using me to restore the brokenhearted. I remember Manjunath looked at me and said, I just want to die. I can't take this suffering. He would cough up so much of phlegm. I just want to die. I looked at him in the eye and said, Jesus Christ is going to heal you. And we prayed and we served. We prayed and we served. And you can see the result. We also have a couple of reunions, a number of reunions that happen of people who were abandoned, people who were desolate and dying back to their families. So one such story, it's a beautiful story, a story of Sabita. So Sabita was rescued a couple of months ago, and she was in a very bad mental condition. Her condition was so bad that she was standing in the middle of the Begumpet road near ITC Kakatiya, in middle of the road, where the cabs and the cars come at full speed. She was standing right there in the middle. And someone called us, we went, we rescued her, we got her home, we treated her for her mental illness. There was a magazine, the Wow magazine, that covered our home. And there was a picture of me and Sabita in this magazine. Now this magazine is widespread all over the city. And Sabita's daughter and Sabita's family was actually searching for her on the other side of town, but all their efforts were in vain. So when they saw, they had a copy, Sabita's daughter had a copy of this magazine in her hand, but she never opened it. One day she opened it and she finds her own mother in the magazine. Can you beat that? That is God. And I would say this is the true sense of publicity. This is the true sense of what social work is all about. It's happy reunions. And let's watch the reunion video.
ఎవరు వీళ్ళు సబిత? Okay, she's just trying to. Okay. ఎవరు సబిత ఆమె? వర్ధినినా? పాపనా?
So that was a happy reunion. People tell me, and I get this a lot, saying that you will be blessed. Punyam vastadi meeku. Chala chestunaru. I tell them one thing, I said, even if I'm not blessed, I will still do it. Because I'm not doing it for the blessing. I'm not doing it for the blessing, I'm not doing it for the fame, I'm not doing it for the money. I'm doing it because Jesus did it. Because Jesus had compassion. And I remember my old days, I used to go to the police stations to, pay fines for overspeeding. Today, I sit in police stations with inspectors drinking chai, talking about homeless people. That's how God changed my life. I'm a human rights activist even after death. And I ensure that the people who die at my home get a decent burial. I've done close to 50 funerals till date in a dignified way according to the religion. And I've rescued more than 400 people in my life and 120 people officially through the second chance. These are a few success stories I just want to show you before, after, and I'll close with this. This was how he was, this is how he is now. Left side before, right side after. He's the same person who's lying down on the road. Today he's in a suit. I'd like to close with this statement. This is one thing that drives me to do what I do. And I ask myself this question all the time I see something on the road. And let me tell you one thing. Every time you see something on the road, is an opportunity for you to help. And God doesn't show you something on the road because you can just see it and pass by. Jesus could never pass by someone in need. So every opportunity that you get to see of a homeless person or someone in need of help is an opportunity from God, and it is an opportunity for you to do something. So this question that says, if not now, then when? If not me, then who? Is the driving force for what I do today. All glory to God. Thank you so much.